Okay, now that we set up our first big large file here, the one that holds the largest part to 12 inches by 12 inches, we're going to do a process which is known in the industry as nesting. We're going to nest and put all the parts from the other files into this file so that we can design an optimum nested layout of these particular parts that we want to cut out on our CNC plasma cutter. Now, if I'm making a wooden cell phone stand, I would go through the exact same process. Even if I wasn't using a CNC plasma, maybe I'm using a CNC router instead, but I would go through the exact same process of nesting all the parts in there. Now, one important point that we've got to cover is housekeeping of this file. So we'll come over here and select our layers panel, and we'll open that up. Now, when we open it up, we see this one part. Notice the eyeball here. I can click on that and it turns it off, or I can click back on it and I can see it. We're going to name this one to cell phone resting plate. And then, very importantly, we're going to lock that file. Okay, so now we got it locked, we're going to go ahead and create another layer, and we're going to go out to the Arrowhead file. Well, first of all, let's save this file. Now we're going to go out to the Arrowhead file. Okay, see our Arrowhead here? What we're going to do now is we're going to put a polygon around that to select that Arrowhead. We're going to come up to Edit, and we're going to copy that, or do a Control-C. Now I'm going to come back over here to my resting plate file, as you see up here in this panel. Open it up, and now I'm going to come back over here to Edit, and I'm going to paste that in. So there it is. Well, obviously I need to get it where it's not overlapping. I'm going to move it over here to about right there. Okay, so now I'm going to call this Arrowhead 1, because I've got to have two arrowheads. Arrowhead 1. Okay, now I'm only going to create one Arrowhead file at this time. The reason is I'm going to come back and modify this Arrowhead 1, and then I'll copy it so it'll be exactly the same when I cut it out the second time. So now we'll lock that layer. We'll go create a new layer. Save our file. We'll come back over. Now you can click on the band of files across the top here. Anytime you see an asterisk, it means that the file has not been saved. So I do a Control-S, and it'll save that file, as you can see. Now we'll go over here to the cell phone base, and we're going to again we can go ahead and do a polygon around it. That's one way of doing it. Or we can do a Control-A, which selects it all. Now I can come up and do a copy, or I can do a Control-C. Well, this time let's do a Control-C. Okay. Now I can do an a Control-Tab, which lets me go through all the files in my Illustrator session that I have open. So I'll come back to this one, and I'll do a Control-V. So as you can tell, each one of these layers has a different color associated with it. That's actually quite helpful, because it allows us to see which on which layer. Now we're going to call this one cell phone base. So I double click on layer 3 and I'll key in cell phone base. Okay, so that's in there. Now notice how it doesn't see the whole name. If I grab the layers panel and pull it out to the side, instead of seeing the dot dot dot, we'll see the full name. And I'm going to kind of put it back here a little bit. Okay, so that's in there. Now I'm going to lock that layer 2. I'm getting kind of tight on space, so I'm going to go back to the first one and unlock it, and I'm going to grab a polygon around the cell phone resting plate, and I'm going to move it up to about right there. Okay, and I'll lock that layer here, and I'm going to hold off for a moment there, and I'm going to go grab another part. So let's save our file. Let's create a new layer. Oh, now I just accidentally created 2 layers. We'll fix this here. Watch what we do on the layer management. I don't need layer 5. So what I'm going to do is just grab that and drag it down here to the trash can and get rid of it. Now layer 4 is not really where I want it. I want it up at the top. So I just grab it and I'll pull it up to the top. And so now there's layer 4. So let's go ahead and save our file now. Control-S to save. Let's go back up here, and we've got the arrowhead. We've got the cell phone stand base. Let's go get the perpendicular resting plate. That's that little file, this guy here. Again, Control-A to select it all, Control-C to copy, We'll go back up to our cell phone resting plate file, the big one, and now we're going to put it in here. So we'll do a Control V, which puts us on layer 4. So it puts us right there. And now I can move this around, or I can kind of lay it to what orientation I want. So I can just move stuff around a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now what I want to do is name this. So I'm going to call this perpendicular resting plate. Yeah, it's a lot of words there, but a lot of letters. It's okay. We know what we got. So we're going to lock this in place. Oh, before I lock it, I want to move that up a little bit. I can use my arrow keys to move. It's called nudging. So if I hit that one little arrow key up, it just nudges it up. If I hold my shift key down and hit my arrow key up, it nudges it at 10 points per move. So that looks pretty good. We'll leave that there for now. So we'll lock this layer. Again, always save what we've done, Control S. Now we need to get the center piece that holds the cable in. So we'll come over here and we'll go center support cable mount. Okay. Now again, Control A. Copy that file, Control C. We'll do a Control Tab to go back to our main file. Oh, we forgot to create a layer. No big problem. So we'll go ahead and create layer 5 again. We'll go ahead and double click and name it. We'll call it cable, kind of abbreviate it a little bit, mount plate. Okay. We'll do a Control V and paste that in. So now it comes in on top like a nice color purple there. Here's one thing we need to think about for efficiency is to maybe rotate this around or move it out of the way. We're going to probably have to do that a bit to kind of get our files laid in here correctly and to optimize the use of our steel plate that we're going to cut this out with. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got that in there. I tried to select this bottom one. We're going to move some stuff around. I think it'd be a bit more efficient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this first one and drag my mouse down and unlock all of the files. So now all the files are open. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this one plate here, the resting plate, holding my shift key down. I'm going to, in my arrow key, I'm going to jog it over here and see if I can optimize its placement. Now, one thing to consider when you're making a file and you're creating your files is you always have to think in terms of design to manufacturing. You always have to think about how your equipment's going to work. What are the specifications of your equipment? And in this, reason I bring this up is that we're using a CNC plasma cutter. It's shooting an arc of electricity at 40,000 degrees into an 1/8-inch plate of steel. Well, it's pretty precise, but it's not perfect. So what you have to consider is, okay, if it's not perfect and it's pretty precise, I got to give myself enough spacing between my parts that it's not going to cause a problem. So here I've selected 2. I'm going to hold my shift key down and deselect that 1. I'm going to drag this down using my arrow keys, nudging it down. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll step it over here. Okay, I'll get it into place. So I'm giving myself enough spacing between the parts that when the plasma arc hits the steel plate, it's not going to burn good steel that I need for the part associated to it around it. So that's an important point we've got to consider. Now, it's going to be very evident to me I've got a lot of steel that I can work with on this using this 1-foot square piece of steel. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and grab this particular resting plate here. I'm going to come over here to my tools panel on the right hand side, and I've got what's known as the free transform tool. I'm going to select it, and as I move my arrow, notice I got this bent arrow here. What it's going to allow me to do is rotate that. So I'm going to hold my shift key down so it rotates in 45-degree increments. So now it's perpendicular. I'm going to go ahead and move this down using my shift arrow key. Okay. And what I need to start thinking of in terms of is, again, optimizing my design, obviously, and optimizing the use of my steel that I have here. So I may go ahead and start copying these parts and have duplicates of maybe the cable, maybe the resting plate, again, to optimize my steel, because I'm not going to make just one of these. I may make 4, 5, or 100 of these. So again, optimizing my steel, maximizing the use of my material and my resources. Sometimes on a computer you get these residues of the graphics here. All you got to do is hold your Alt key and zoom in and zoom out, and it goes away. Okay, we're going to stop for now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to modify the arrowhead part.